welcome back to the Fiasco Sports NBA season previews. I'm Matt Sampson. Joining today is the one and only Fraser. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you.
We're going to check out the Atlanta Hawks in a second, but before we get into it, got to say a quick thank you to the Sporties at the Arca Bar for letting us film here. They've been nice enough to open up every morning for nearly 2 weeks now, so
yep.
I think they're getting a bit sick of us, but we thank you very much for having us. The link to their Facebook is going to be in the description below. Check it out. It's worth coming down if you're in Adelaide, want to grab a meal, watch some sport. Yeah, get around it. Atlanta Hawks, Fraser.
Yep.
Bit of a quick starter, slow finisher, then a little bit of a comeback in the playoffs as well last season. So.
Yeah, they're one of like the middle of the road teams, I'd have to say. They start off really well. Unfortunately, the injury to Al Horford just completely sort of derailed their season. After that, they went on losing 15 of 16 games after February 1st. But then they managed to climb back and get the 8th seed, and they managed to push Indiana to 7 games. So they seem to be that team that just can make the playoffs but can't make too much of a push beyond that.
Yeah, they've sort of been middle of the road for a while now. A team that hasn't really bottomed out in a few seasons, but they also haven't really pushed into the upper echelon. Yeah,
they're not like a team that's tanking for draft picks, or they're contending for the championship. They seem to be content in that middle of the road spot.
Just happy with making the first round.
Yep, mediocre.
But yeah, looking at what they did last season, they went 38-44, which interestingly enough made them the only team in the entire playoffs with a sub 500 record.
Well, it shows you how weak the East was last season, considering they got 38-44. So that's not exactly I wouldn't call that a successful season.
No, I mean there was probably 4 or 5 teams in the West that would have had a better record than them. I mean, some of those teams would have had a better record than the 4th and 5th seed in the East, to be fair. But yeah, it's hard to really get excited about the Atlanta Hawks making the playoffs when you think that realistically they probably shouldn't be there, should they?
No, they're just one of those teams that was. I mean, it was great that they managed to push Indiana to 7 games because it made a good series. But I think that considering the East has strengthened over the off season, at least with draft picks and free agency, I just feel like they're going to struggle to make the playoffs again this year.
Yeah, well, we've got them ranked overall as 15th in the league, which puts them in at 7th in the East for mine. So I think that they're going to be slightly improved to last season because they will have Al Horford, fingers crossed, touch wood, coming back healthy. But at the same time, like you said, free agency in the draft has really made the East less of a laughing stock, at least in the top half. The bottom half is still pretty
it's
atrocious,
up for grabs.
But the top 8 has definitely strengthened. And looking at their offense and defense, like you said, smack bang, middle of the road.
Yeah, exactly. Middle of the road is the perfect term.
15th in each. So they didn't excel at either or. But at the same time, they weren't terrible at either or.
Yeah. So.
The strength was obviously that outside scoring. They got lots of shooters that can knock it down 1 through 5, and that's what really hurt the Pacers in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think one of my favourite parts of basketball in general is that 3-point shot. That's my absolute favourite. So guys like Kyle Korver who can make that outside shot, just that completely ruined Indiana's chances on the outside scoring point at least. Yeah,
especially Indiana being such an interior defensively orientated team, and to be spread around with that 3-point shot that, like you said, you can just blow open a game.
Yeah.
Hit 3 consecutive threes, there's 9 points, that's a massive swing.
I mean, it's 3 points instead of 2. How can you not like that?
That's it, it's worth one more than any other shot.
That's why I love 3-point shooting.
Only thing that could be better would be a 4-point play.
Yeah, but then again, you actually have to make contact on that one as well.
That's true, and then quite literally there is nothing that is worth more points in the game. But their weakness obviously was staying healthy. We've spoke about Horford, who missed the rest of the season after that February injury.
Yeah.
And even the rest of the roster had some sort of ticky-touch with injuries, missing 3 games here, missing 5 games here, which that continuity is really what sort of cost them down the line, wasn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think also in regards to the losing streaks that they had, losing 15 of 16 games and having a 5-game skid near the end of the season, that definitely doesn't help. You've got to be able to stop those skids, when they start. And unfortunately, they just didn't have the personnel to be able to stop that, which, if they didn't, they would have been a really higher seeded team in the East. So I think once they get guys like Horford back and the team can stay healthy, they can stop that. I just feel like the injuries that they had sort of derailed their season, which of course you don't want, but injuries happen.
We should mention they were actually the 3rd seed in the East before
up until
injury. And then they slid all the way down to 8th. But they have made some changes in the off season. We'll have a look at who they've added and who they've lost. I've put in Al Horford as an added player, which, you know, for mine, when you get an injured guy coming back, especially someone that's missed the entire season, that'll just completely revamp the roster.
Oh yeah, and you know, he's one of their franchise players, and he was having a career year prior to the injuries, getting like 18 points a game, you know, plenty of rebounds, plenty of assists. So for them, you definitely want that guy back, and especially with centres as well, it's hard to get that sort of production out of a centre. So they'll be really happy getting him back. And they've also got guys like Thabo Sefolosha, who provides, you know, decent bench depth, and I don't really see him as a starter.
No, he's sort of faded out since he was locked in as a starter in Oklahoma for several seasons, but last season he sort of dropped off. But he's definitely a perimeter defender that the Hawks will sort of cherish, excuse me, that they've missed in a couple seasons. So getting him to come in, and like you said, bench depth, it's great. Yeah,
and I think it adds the size and the depth that the Hawks need. I think considering the injuries they had last season, they want to be able to have that depth in case it does happen again. Because of course the key to any sport is having a good bench. So
well, we saw that's what won the Spurs a championship, was having an extremely deep bench that could produce. So depth is always good. Another guy that I think is going to have plenty of depth, specifically on the bench, if only for his bench celebrations, is one of my favourite players, in Kent Bazemore. Before Patty Mills was the king of the towel wave, Kent Bazemore was the king of the over-the-top bench celebration. You know, from aeroplanes to throwing arms up in the air and the three-point sign just going up, windmills, whatever you like. He's such a versatile celebrator. I think he's really going to add something to this team.
And considering his on-court sort of abilities, he does add size and athleticism to the guard position. So again, you can never have too much bench depth. And I mean, if you got a guy who's celebrating, that energy off the bench can actually do a lot more good. So
yeah, well, I personally don't care one iota about Kent Bazemore.
So he could score like 0.0 points on the season, but as long as he's got that towel going,
he could get 82 DNPs, coaches' decisions, and I would give him the MVP celebratory award. Just, I love me some Kent Bazemore. But they've lost a couple key pieces as well. Lou Williams, who, when he came across from the 76ers as the leading bench scorer in the entire league, blew out his ACL in his first season with the Hawks and never sort of recovered. Last season came back, was a bit so-so because, you know, ACL injury is such a big thing to come back from. But he's headed to Toronto, so they have lost that secondary scorer coming off the pine, which I guess is where you say Kent Bazemore, if I suppose he has to play. We can get Kent Bazemore to fill in some points there. Yeah,
I feel that they've filled in that spot that they lost with Bazemore. So again, considering he's a really good bench scorer, Williams we're talking about. So you know, it is a loss, but they have managed to fill that position. They haven't sort of gone out and got, you know, another centre or anything like that. They've got a guy who can fill that exact same spot. Hopefully they catch lightning in a bottle. Bazemore can be productive off the bench. You know, Sefolosha can be good on the wings. I just feel like they've filled in that spot nicely, I'd have to say.
Yeah, and bringing Horford back as well is another big offensive punch. So, you know, you lose that bench scorer, but at the same time you're bringing back your leading scorer from several seasons ago. So, you know, losing Williams is probably not as big as some people think it is. And then they lost Cartier Martin, who really didn't actually play that much for them last year, and the rookie who came across from Brazil, I believe, Lucas Nogueira, who most people know just as the guy whose afro was so big he couldn't get his draft cap on draft night. So he's also headed to Toronto. Probably not a real big loss because, you know, Horford's coming back.
I'd say it was a bit of a wash with those last two. Really, Williams was the big one they lost, but they didn't lose too many guys to free agency. They managed to sign a lot of their core pieces back. So I think overall, in regards to re-signing, they did a good job with keeping the players that they want.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see the rookie Adrian Payne play as well, because he fits that three-point barrage that the Hawks like to throw at teams, doesn't he?
Yeah, most definitely, and that's something that that the Hawks are going for, especially with their new coach. They want that outside scoring, so I feel like he really does fit into that mould. I've also got that, you know, he can stretch four essentially. He averaged 16.4 points, 7.3 rebounds, 42.3% of his threes in his senior year. So, you know, this guy can ball.
Yeah, and he was a potential lottery pick last year as well. So he fell down to the Hawks at 15, I believe, and plenty of potential there. He can rebound, he can shoot. He's going to fit that niche nicely. The other two rookies are Walter Tavares and Lamar Patterson. They're both going to be playing overseas.
Yeah, they're project pieces for the Hawks, most definitely. Yeah, they've got a lot of potential, but they are raw. Take a gamble on them, see how it goes, and considering the Hawks, they're not spending high picks on them.
Yeah,
considering they're that middle of the road team, so I think they're overall good pickups for them.
Yeah, I think down the line we'll see them come over potentially, but they're not going to have an impact this season. No. Looking at guys that will have an impact this season, the guys that are going to play the bulk of the minutes it's pretty much the same as last season, except you throw Horford into that centre spot, don't you? I mean, you got Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, Paul Millsap, who is actually in the final year of his contract now. They signed that sneaky 2-year deal, which should be interesting to see if they keep him on the roster now. Damari Carroll is really underrated as well, and Horford. For you, who's the guy you really are looking forward to see play for the Hawks this year?
See, I actually like Jeff Teague. I mean, everyone wants to see Horford back, but Jeff Teague, considering when Mike Budenholzer sort of brought in his style of play, it really helped Jeff Teague sort of in his consistency. He was always that player that never quite reached his potential in the 4 years he's been with Atlanta. So I just feel like if they can continue working with him in regards to, considering he controls the offense, I feel like that'll really help out. You've got guys like Horford coming back, which is fantastic, but I think one of the point guard position is one of the most important in the game, naturally, out of the five. So, having someone who can control and be comfortable with the ball going up the court, I feel like that works out really well for him.
Yeah, well, we've seen slowly it's become a point guard dominated league. And every successful team has to have that all-star caliber point guard. And Teague, for stretches, has really shown that he could be an all-star. But like you said, consistency has been his biggest problem. I think Budenholzer coming in has brought that Greg Popovich style a little bit.
Consider he's been, 16
16 years with the Spurs, and he's tried to turn Teague into that Tony Parker light. So even if he can hit that, step below Parker but play that similar game, I think that's going to be massive for the Hawks. For me, I'm really interested to see Paul Millsap again this year. Because after Horford went down, Millsap really stepped up and earned his first All-Star selection, had a really good season, took the bulk of the scoring load for the team, was a solid rebounder, also stepped out and added that three-point shot as well, which completely matched the Hawks' offense and what they wanted. So I'm really interested to see how he plays with Horford, because we have such a small sample size of them playing together. And like I mentioned, he's on the last year of his deal now. He signed a 2-year, $18 million deal, which makes him a really valuable trade piece. So depending how Atlanta's trajectory goes, he might not be there at the end of the year. So for mine, Millsap's someone that's really interesting to watch going forward. His play will be good considering, but also if he does play well, it's an interesting trade piece, as you said. So, it might turn into something that works out really well for the Hawks, just to restock that sort of farm system in a way. Yeah, exactly. But, we've touched on it already. Probably the biggest piece returning is Al Horford. Before he went down, was having a great season, like you said, 18.5 points at 56% from the floor, which is incredibly efficient. 8.5 rebounds, 1.5 blocks, only the 29 games because of that pectoral injury. So what are you looking for from Al this season?
I think that he's going to have to, with the centre position, it's definitely important in, maintaining an offense. The point guard's great, but also having that inside scoring is fantastic with Horford. I don't think he'll maintain that 56.7% field goal percentage. Small sample size. Yes, of course. But if he can have a career year like he was having, I think he provides that genuine scoring, and it helps the outside shooting as well, because having that guy who can go inside means they're going to play more in, and then you just pass it out to Korver. And considering his catch and shoot percentage was really good in making threes, I think that's a dangerous combo right there. Well,
Horford is one of those sneaky all-stars. I think he's got 2 all-stars under his belt, and no one sort of seems to remember. I remember because he's the bane of Australian fans' existence, because he always took that final all-star spot that you're always hoping and praying that Andrew Bogut could get when he was really hitting his strides in Milwaukee. But Horford's one of those underrated all-star guys who just goes in, gets the job done, will get your points, get your rebounds, underrated passer, and decent shot blocker. But that inside-out presence is really going to help boost that outside shot that Atlanta was relying on. You know? That shot's great when it's there, but when it's not, to have someone you can pass the ball down to inside and really rely on. And when they just had Millsap, you can key in on him, but now you've got two guys, you can work off those two blocks, and that really opens up this offense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the three ball is always not going to be there for them this season, and just having someone who can go inside, it can change up your offense. You can adapt because of course, no one hits 100% of their shots. So just having that diversity within their offense, I think that really helps them out. And of course, under Budenholzer, it's just going to work out even better because of course that Spurs system, it's worked really well for the Spurs, and he's just coming over and just applying it to the Hawks. So I feel like they're improving this season. I'll say that much.
Yeah. All right. But we're getting a bit serious here. We've got to
loosen it up.
Loosen up the mood a little bit with the Believe the Hypothetical. Shout out to the boys at the Believe the Hype NBA podcast. Check out all the info on the screen. Go follow their social media, and most importantly, listen to the podcast. It's really worth your time. But their prediction, which is one of my favourites, I really enjoyed looking at and researching this one, if you can call it researching. Their prediction is that Chingy is going to oversee a rebrand of the Hawks. Who says no? It worked for the Raptors with Drake, so why not?
See, I just feel like Chingy hasn't been relevant for forever. And if they're going to go with Chingy, why don't you go like Charmillionaire? If you're going to go that far back, go for, some really off-brand rapper that hasn't been around since like the mid-2000s.
Well, see, that's where I think that you need to embrace that, and you need to get sort of a conglomerate going here. I mean, an NBA team is a really expensive thing to buy. We saw when Rick Ross wanted to take over the Clippers that, that's a phenomenal amount of money that he has to spend. So we're going to need to sort of crowdsource, if you will, a has-been hip-hop takeover of the Hawks.
See, I was just going to say, I think the only thing the Hawks can do is somehow get Drew Holiday and make the Drew Holiday in.
Yeah, well, see, that works. I think we need to get Little John in to do some PA sound effects. Like every time there's a bad call against you, you can get the what? We also need Chamillionaire, like you said. I think 2 Chainz.
Yeah, he's relevant.
He's relevant now. He was a relatively good college player. Andre 3000 was in semi-pro. So, if we can...
Essentially it shouldn't just be Chingy, it should be a whole bunch of different people.
That's it. I want to see Andre 3000 bring back Coffee Black and come in the league.
God, how many names did he go under? It was like Coffee Black, there was Downtown.
Downtown Funky Stuff Malone.
That's it.
I'd buy an Atlanta Hawks Downtown Funky Stuff Malone jersey for sure. I'd buy a Atlanta Hawks Chains jersey, Chains with a number 2. Yeah. Who else? I mean,
so many missed opportunities.
Yin Yang Twins. Let's get the Yin Yang Twins involved.
You could make the ball the Yin Yang.
Yeah, a Yin Yang ball with a 2 Chainz jersey with Little John in the PA system. Chingy riding dirty around the arena.
Yeah, he could do parking.
He could be, exactly. Ride dirty to the games with Chingy. It could be a public transport system thing. But I'm all for this. I think
it's a great idea.
I don't see why this hasn't happened already. It's beyond. I'm just amazed that this is not a thing.
Get on it.
Yeah, Chingy, get involved. I know he was in Sydney, I think it was a while ago, so maybe we can go out and propose this to him.
Yeah, well, we've just got to go to Sydney. That's the only problem.
Well, we can do that. Maybe, I don't know. It'll work out.
Road trip.
Chingy to oversee rebrand of Hawks. I'm down for that. I'm 100% all for that.
Yeah.
I want that to happen. But we got to wrap it up real quick. 30 seconds on the clock. Buzzer beater, what's your prediction for the Hawks?
I think they'll just scrape into the playoffs. I think that, considering they did have that really bad stretch of games, I think that they can probably make the 7th or 8th seed, maybe. Hopefully they stay healthy. They're not going to push too far in the playoffs. If they're really lucky, they might make it past the first round, but it depends on their opponent. I'm going to say that they make 7th seed, end up getting knocked out first round.
Yep, I'm right with you there. I think first round, they're going to push a team maybe like they did last year, but they're going to get eliminated. They've done what the Hawks have done for the best part of a decade in that they've just stayed exactly the same as last season.
It's like they're trying to satisfy the fan base by saying, we just made it, but we're not going to push any further than that.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to have the guts to be like the 76ers and bottom out and have that 5-year plan, and the Hawks just want to stay relevant and hope they can get on a dream run and push to the finals. But it's just so much more competitive at the top there. They're definitely in that bottom 4 tier of the teams. I've got them slotted in as 7th. I wouldn't be surprised if they missed. That's how the
bottom is working out.
Yeah, that's sort of 6 through 10, 11 spot is a crapshoot at the moment. So yeah, first round exit definitely going to happen. I think Chingy to take over, that's in the bag. I think, you know, once he watches this,
we just think then they could get
going to have an epiphany.
Yeah, they could get extra funds in, and then from there they can, you know, do that all-in sort of championship run.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if Chingy has enough money to take
he can
over.
put like maybe $5 in.
$5. Oh, that's it. You know, he's being a minority owner. How much do you have to pay to be a minority owner of a sports franchise?
No idea. All he has to do is beat out Rick Ross, and he'll be right.
Rick Ross. Yeah, the looming shadow of Rick Ross is coming. But yeah, got to wrap it up there. Thanks for joining us on the NBA season previews here at Fiasco Sports at Sporties at the Alcaba. Check that out. Check out Believe the Hype. Really thank the guys for jumping in with these questions. 30 teams. We've really wasted a significant portion of their life getting them to help us out.
And wasted a lot of our lives as well.
Yeah, that's it. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.